All right, so you remember we did the little number line to start off yesterday? We did the number line. We also talked about the parabola. The problem is this is not a parabola, so I can't use that whole, is it up or down facing? So I do need to use my number line. So what we're going to do with these is we're going to take the top, set it equal to 0, and the bottom, set it equal to 0. Now I'm going to color code these, and I'll explain why. So I'm going to use green for the top. We'll use red for the bottom. Now, for the top, what value would I get if I solve that? So x equals -1. And then for the bottom, okay. So I'm going to make my number line. Let's see here. Which one's going to be on the left? -6. So here's -6. And here's -1. And here's the reason why I color coded them. It's because when the top of my fraction equals 0, what happens to the whole fraction?
0.
The whole fraction equals 0. So this is from the top, whole fraction equals 0. Ooh, colored that wrong. 0. What happens when the bottom equals 0? Yeah, it does not exist. So I'm going to put a little DNE here. So anything, and put a little line through there to show that the value where the would make the bottom equal to 0, I actually can't have. Where the top equals 0, I can if it's equal to. Okay, so that's important for some of these. Now I'm just going to do my test values. What's a test value I can use? I could use -5 in the middle if I wanted to. Yep. What's the test value on the right side? 0. And what's the test value on the far left? Okay. Now, just like last time, we don't really care about the number we get. We care about, is it positive or negative? So if I plug 0 in, if I plug it into the top and I plug it into the bottom, what do I get? A positive or a negative? I get a positive because I get +1 over +6. What if I plug -5 in for those x's? I get negative because I'd say, all right, -5 plus 1, -5 plus 6. -5 plus 1 is -4. -5 plus 6 is +1. And a negative divided by a positive is a negative. And then lastly, if I plug -6 in, sorry, -7 in, what do I get? Positive, because I'd get a negative on top, a negative on the bottom, and a negative divided by negative is a positive. Notice it did alternate signs there. What do I want? Do I want negatives or positives? All right, well, let's look. It says my fraction needs to be what? Less than 0, so that means I want my fraction to be negative. So we're looking for negatives. When is it negative? In between. So from here to here. Now, this is important. It does not matter if it's equal to or not. That cannot ever include that -6. Why not? Because it would give me 0 in the denominator. It does not exist. So even if it was equal to, I would use parentheses on the -6. Okay, so I'm saying from -6, we're going to use parentheses, comma, the -1. Now for the -1, that gives me 0 in the top. So for that one, I have to look and see, is it okay if I get 0 or not? Well, yes. Is it okay if I get 0? Do I have a little equal to there? No. So for that one, I'm going to have to use parentheses. But if it was equal to here, that's when I would use my bracket. All right, go ahead and try number 11. All right, so number 11. At this point, I'm going to skip steps just a little bit. Go to my number line and say, okay, what are my x values? -5 and -1. So I'm saying -5, -1. Which one gives me does not exist? The bottom. So D and E does not exist. The -5's on top, so that one just gives me 0 if I plug it in. So use a test value. I'm going to plug 0 in over here. If I plug 0 in, I get 5/1, +5/+1, so positive. And then if I alternate signs, I get that. Is that correct? Do I want it to be negative or positive? We want it to be negative, so we're looking from here to here. Can I include the 5? Why? Because see that equal to line there. So I'm going to put a bracket on the 5. Can I include the -1? No, we can never include the one that says D and E. So our answer is going to be bracket -5, comma, -1, parentheses. All right. Does that make sense? Understand why that works? Go ahead and try number 12. Number 12 should be same type, right? Yeah. All right. For this one, what are our values? All right, for -5, is it 0 or does not exist? All right, the signs. We'll start with the right. Is it positive or negative on the right? Positive. Do I want it to be positive or do I want it to be negative? We want it to be positive. So that means I need from here that way and from here that way. Well, let's start off with that first one. The left side. What was that? Parentheses. Yep. So parentheses always was infinity. Ooh, remember, it does not exist. Gotta use parentheses. And then a little u, just like we did last time. And then here, bracket. Okay with that. Number 13. First thing I need to do for number 13 is to factor the bottom. If I factor the bottom, what do I get? What are my values I get? X equals 8. All right, so because for the bottom ones, kind of to show that those are the ones from the bottom, I put the little line through it, so X cannot equal those, just so I can remember. So I'm gonna plot those points. Let's see, we have -6 would be the furthest to the left, D and E. We have +3, also D and E. And then 8 over here, that's 0. Now let's think about my, I think it's the factored one. I'm gonna write it out as factored. That would be X minus 8, X plus 6, X minus 3. Actually, for this one, what's a value I can plug in? Favorite one to use? 0. Where is 0 located? Left of 3. So right there. There's going to be my 0. If I plug 0 in, for this one, I'll look at the original. Everything that has an X in it just turns to 0, right? So that would turn to 0. That would turn to 0. That would turn to 0. And I'd be left with just -8 over -18. Negative over a negative is a positive. Okay. Assuming it changes signs, which I think we can show on this one, it will. That would be negative, negative, positive. Okay. Now to check, give me another value that's not on the same interval as the -6 and 3. +5. That would be right here. To plug in other values, it's easiest to use this, because remember, all we're thinking about is positive or negative. If I plug 5 into this one right here, would it give me a negative or a positive number? A negative. If I plug +5 into this one, what would I get? I'd get a positive. If I plug if I plug +5 into this one, what would I get? Still a positive. Now in the bottom, I have a positive times a positive, which is a negative over a positive is a negative. There you go. Kind of confirmed it is alternating signs. The only time it should not cancel signs is if something is repeated. So if I end up with two x minus 3's, it's probably not going to change signs at x minus 3. Okay. Other than that, it should always change signs. So we've got our sign chart. What are we looking for? Positive or negative values? Looking for positive values. Is it okay to equal 0? Yes. So we'll come out here and say, okay, positive values. That would be from here to here, and then from here to forever. Okay. Let's start off with our first interval. How would I write that?
Yeah, parentheses.
Parentheses. All right. Both of those are does not exist. They both came from the bottom. All right. And bracket. Yep. Thank you. One mistake that I'll see people make is when we're writing our final answer, these numbers always consist of what we got up here from the problem, right? However, sometimes I'll see people use these numbers. Remember, these are just our test values. We just kind of arbitrarily pick those numbers randomly because they're in between, right? Just to tell us what the sign is. So we'll never use those numbers in my answer, just the ones that we got from the problem initially. All right, try number 14. All right, what did you factor 14 into? X equals 7, and it equals -8. Yeah, so the reason why I do the opposite is, remember, I'm saying each one of those equals 0. So I'd say x plus 8 equals 0. Subtract 8 from both sides, and I get x equals -8. So yeah, so I'm really doing opposite signs for each of those. So we have -8, -7, +4. Obviously, my spacing's not correct, but it doesn't really matter. It does matter if they're in the correct order, so be careful with those negatives. It's easy to switch to -7 and -8. All right. Going to note that the -8 and the +4 are my DNEs. The 7's my equal to, or my 0, but on this one it's not going to matter because I can't equal 0 anyway. 0 as my test value. Where is 0 going to be? Yeah. So right there, there's my 0. If I plug 0 in, I'll get +7 over -32, which is a negative. And again, nothing's repeated, so messed that up, sorry. Plus, minus, plus, minus, there we go. Do I want positive or negative numbers? So I'm saying parentheses, -8, comma, -7, and 4 to, good on that one? Okay, so we're gonna skip over number 15. It's pretty much the same. Look at 16 and 17, and then we'll call it quits on this part. For 16, I need to factor both top and bottom. Well, let's look at this. What multiplies to make 40? 2 and 8 and 5, yes. So they're both positive, so 8 and 5, add to make 13. Multiply to make 4, add to make 6. Nothing's repeated, so I'm not gonna have to worry about that when we do our sign chart. What are our values? Chart. Starting, they're all negatives, so the least one would be -8. This one is not equal to, so I'm not going to have any brackets on this one. Do I want positive or negative numbers? Looking for negative numbers. All right, since all my values are negative, 0 is going to be here on the far right. If I plug 0 in, again, with everything does not have an X in it, I get +40 over +8, which is positive. And again, we said none of our numbers were repeated, so I know positive, negative. All right, again, we're looking for negative numbers. So tell me, what's my answer if I'm looking for negative numbers? right? So this one had two parts to it. If we were looking for positives, it would have three parts to it. I did it with two U's, okay? So that's really the only thing different, not a whole lot. So try number 17, and that'll be the last one we do on this, and we'll do our 5-minute break. Yeah, so that's really what our test. So I could, I'm putting one and assume that it changed signs. Did not want to assume it changed signs. You can say, okay, what's the number in between better? Negative 3. Or negative 3 is. Do I get a positive or negative number? Thank you. All right, so number 17, what did the top factor into? And the bottom. All right, nothing's repeated. Just give them a number line. So we have -7. Yep, -5. -2, which is a DNE. And +1, which is also a DNE. Where's 0? I'll plug 0 in. What do I get out? Yep, because a positive divided by negative. Negative. And so that's negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive. Do I want positives or negatives? Positives. So starting off, what I got? So that's from here, forever that way, from here to here. All right, so what's my answer going to look like? Oh, and before I get to that one though. Yeah, so -5 to -2, and then I'll have the 1 to infinity. Questions there? All right, 5-minute break.